Hi guys, it's Aunt Mama coming to you live from Modesto, California, my new digs. It is currently 9:55 a.m. Pacific time on September 11th. It's 9/11. Somber day, right? Very somber day. And I realize that even though it's 9:55, it's still early here on the East Coast. By this time on the West Coast, 18 years ago, the planes had hit. Lives were lost. Sadness, terror ensued. But I think it's really interesting because I wanted to talk about this today because, well, obviously it's 9/11 and we're kind of dealing with all of that right now, but I am dealing with it in a very different way this year. So we received an email last night from our teacher, my son's teacher. My son, again, is 7 years old. He's in second grade. And we received an email from my son's teacher saying, and she sent it out to the entire class, the entire second grade class, saying, in remembrance of 9/11, the teachers and I are going to wear red, white, and blue in remembrance of 9/11 and the lives that were lost and that whole very earth-shattering, forever-changing event for U.S. Americans. And she had said that we hope that, if you choose to participate, send your child wearing red, white, and blue or stars and stripes or something like that for 9/11. And then the response, parents were responding back saying, oh, what a great idea. Of course, I'll send little Susie Q and her stars and stripes, and Joey will wear his red, white, and blue. And I thought to myself, okay, we're new to this school, and I want my kid to fit in. I want my kid to make friends. And so I said, okay, well, then we've got to send him to school in red, white, and blue or something. Gosh, my hair is really all over the place today. But he's going to ask why. He's going to know, why am I wearing red, white, and blue today? And I can't just say, honor of America, can I? Right? Because I just feel like he's gonna be so confused because it's not like it's the 4th of... He even asked that. He's like, why am I wearing this today? Is it the 4th of July? Is it the day for the soldiers, which would be Veterans Day or Memorial Day or whatever? And I'm like, no. And so I had to kind of explain to him. I was like, do I explain to him? What do I do? He's 7. Do I say something to him? Do I explain to him what 9/11 means and what happened in history? Is he old enough? Is it just going to terrify him? Does he need to know that right now? Or can he just live another year of his life skipping and believing in leprechauns and Santa Claus? I don't know. So I was in this conundrum, do I send him in red, white, and blue to school today? If I don't, then I don't have to act like 9/11 is a big deal. But then his other friends are going to be wearing red, white, and blue for school today, and he's going to feel left out. But then if I put him in red, white, and blue, I feel like it's my duty as a mother to try to do some bit of explanation as to why he's wearing red, white, and blue. But then I feel like I have a responsibility to the other children and the other parents in his class because what I tell him is going to affect others. So, yeah, I sat him down this morning, put him in his red, white, and blue clothes, and said to him, hey, this is a kind of a really important day in American history. Something really kind of bad happened on this day 18 years ago, on 9/11, 18 years ago. And we all kind of, that live in America, we all kind of stop on this day and remember this day and what we learned and what we kind of lost on that day. And he's kind of confused, right? And I was like, how do I explain this to a 7-year-old? And should I explain this to a 7-year-old? What am I doing? I don't even know if this is age appropriate, but how do I not explain something? So I kind of just said, you know what? There were some bad people. 18 years ago, there were some bad people that did a really bad thing. They got into some airplanes and they took over the airplanes. They got in the cockpits and they took over the airplanes and they flew them into buildings, and the buildings crumbled and they fell down and lots of people died. And it all happened here in the United States. And we see a lot of firefighters, a lot of policemen, a lot of volunteers went to try to help and save these people. And we also lost a lot of those lives too. And, it was a really kind of scary day. But now things are different now. We have taken some, I didn't know how to say all these words to a 7-year-old. We caught the bad man, right? And now we have all sorts of extra rules and things that we do in the United States to try to keep us safe. And our government, does more work to try to keep us safe. And He's like, well, like what? And I'm like, well, when you go to the airport, you have to go through the radar or the metal detectors, or, when you go onto an airplane that they lock the doors to the cockpits, or, that like when you go into a building, sometimes a large building, sometimes you go through metal detectors, or like, you listen to your police officers, and you listen to the warnings of the of the government and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, how else do you tell them like you're safe? And I said, you know what though, God is protecting you. God has you in his hands, and you need to know that he's putting a blanket of protection over you, and it's going to be okay. So we can't live our life in fear. He's like, okay, and he's like, I get that. He goes, but like that bad man's not around. No. And that stuff isn't, I said, we just need, how do you explain the word vigilant to a 7-year-old? Like, what does vigilant mean? Like, we can't live in fear. I told him, like, we can't live in fear. It's okay. God's got us. God is protected, and it's okay. We just need to be vigilant. How do you explain to a 7-year-old what vigilant means when I can't even explain it to an adult what the word vigilant is defined as? So I kind of struggle with that. But like, he was curious and he was ready to hear it. He wasn't scared. So he's like, he wasn't, and he had said at one point, well, then why do we get on airplanes anymore? And I said, well, or why do we go in buildings? And I said, well, honey, it can kind of happen anywhere. And I didn't even know really what to say, but I kind of diffused the situation by like, oh, well, we have new protections in place now, and we're smarter now. We learn now. We just need to be more aware of our surroundings, and we've always got to be smart, and we always have to, make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position of danger. Like I didn't know how to explain, but basically he bought whatever I was selling. I wasn't selling it. I was trying to just keep it simple and light. And we walked to school. And we prayed. We prayed in Our Father, because he chose the Our Father. We said, we want to pray for them. He was so cute. He said, well, yeah, Mom, we lost a lot of people, but that's okay because they're in heaven. Like, so they may have died, but that's okay. They're in heaven. And I was like, yeah, that's true. But, there's also the people that were left behind, like their family is really, really sad because they lost their loved ones. So, like, he is still at that stage of innocence where he's like 7 years old and he doesn't feel grief because he feels like, well, what's the big deal? They died, they're in heaven, and we'll see them someday. But like, he hasn't formed bonds or relationship with people that are that strong that he would feel that tremendous loss. He just feels, well, they're in heaven and I'll see them someday. So we walked to school, we prayed the Our Father, and that was his choice. And he had said, I said, well, we're going to pray for the people that, that had died and that they're up in heaven. And we also want to pray for the people that were left behind. And he said that he also wanted to pray the prayer to St. Michael. The prayer to St. Michael, I didn't know any of this, but the prayer to St. Michael was a prayer he used to say when we lived in North Carolina. The principal there is really awesome. They would say the prayer to St. Michael every day. And I don't know the word for word. I actually learned it from hearing my son say it. It's like praying to St. Michael, defend us in battle, protect us from the wickedness and snares of evil. For this we humbly pray. And then there's like more to the prayer, but I think they shortened it for kids of that age. And I had to actually look it up. And I looked it up, and it was humbling and a beautiful prayer. And I can't believe my son said it every day, and I had never heard that prayer before. And I went to Catholic school like my whole life. But anyways, so we said that prayer, and I realized too that like a lot of firefighters and a lot of police officers say that prayer because they go into protection mode and harm's way every day, right? Like, Saint Michael, defend or protect us in, your armor of protection, defend us in battle, keep us from the wickedness and snares of evil. For this we humbly pray, blah, 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 blah. And they actually have like medallions that have that on there, and they like police officers and firefighters will carry those medallions with them in their pockets. Because I looked to get one for my son, not knowing that this was such like a big deal in like law enforcement. Anyways, so we prayed the prayer to St. Michael. We prayed in Our Father, and we kind of went off on our way. But before I left him, I had said, hey, listen, I know that I just told you all of this, but some other mommies and daddies may not have told their kids. Like some other mommies and daddies may not have told the kids in your class the whole story about what happened on 9/11 because they, maybe the parents thought that their kids weren't old enough or mature, or couldn't handle it, or maybe it would scare them. Or, they just thought maybe these kids weren't ready to hear that. And so some kids in your class may not know what 9/11 really is. And so I don't want you going to school and talking about it. Okay. If you want to talk about it, you can talk about it with me, but I don't want you talking about it with other kids, especially don't go out on the playground and start talking about 9/11 because I think it's going to, just to honor the mommies and daddies that haven't, and and the other kids that they're not ready and you don't need to be talking about it. And especially if there's kindergartners and there's first graders on your playground along with your second grade friends and your third and fourth grade friends. So let's just not talk about it at school. But I wanted you to know, because if other kids do start talking about it at school, I wanted you to have the information. And if you have questions, you can always come to me and we can talk about it. But I don't want you to believe everything that you hear. I want you to know this, because I think you're old enough. I think that you can handle it. But let's not talk about it at school. And definitely do not talk about it with your 4-year-old sister, because I do not want to deal with that aftermath. She is definitely not ready to hear that information. But so then after I was like, oh, would I, had this whole thing arisen with the teacher saying, wear your red, white, and blue and let's honor, those on 9/11, had that not have happened, would I have told my son? Like, I've never been put in a position where I had to tell him before. And I want him to keep believing in things like Santa Claus and unicorns. I don't want him to I want him to be that sweet, angelic little thing. And I don't want him to really, he knows about good, he knows about evil, but he doesn't need to know about how present it can be in our lives every day. And destructive. Anyways, so that's where I struggled. So how old? Now, I was also thinking about moms that are out there whose kids were alive during 9/11. Like, was your kid 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever on 9/11, and they saw it on the television, or it consumed us as Americans forever. For days and weeks and months and years. So did it affect your young children because they had seen it firsthand? Or were they too young to even absorb any of it? Or were they horrified by it? And and I don't know. And then do you talk to your kids now and say, do you remember that? And or at what age did you tell your kids about it? What age is appropriate? I guess it's different for every kid, right? It's different for every kid. Every kid is at a different level. And and maybe there's other parents out there that might not say the right things to their kids. And what is the right thing? What is the right thing to say about 9/11 to a kid? There really is. I know, but I don't know. Yeah, that's my thought of the day. I wanted to make sure that whatever I was telling my kid, he could digest and that he wouldn't be afraid, but that he would be vigilant. And I also wanted him to be sensitive about talking about it with others, because I wanted him to respect the fact that some people aren't ready to hear it and some parents weren't ready to deliver that message. Have you been in a similar situation like that, where there was a very sensitive topic that you didn't think about telling your kid or didn't want to talk to your kid about because you didn't think they were ready for it, but somehow outside forces had brought it into your day? Like sex ed. It was oh my gosh, the kid, the schools are teaching sex ed and maybe my kid's not ready for sex ed yet. Or, oh my gosh, the school wanted to talk about sex trafficking and my kids aren't ready for that yet. But it's our kids need to know these things younger and younger these days. It just scares me. And you never really know, you think to yourself, you don't want to hide anything from them because you always want them to trust you, but you don't want to tell them everything, but you don't want to tell them nothing. How do you strike that balance? And are you going to tell your kids anything today on 9/11? Because and I know, we all remember exactly where we were and what we were doing on this day 18 years ago. And it's saddening to me that I'm thinking that at this hour, 18 years ago, so much had happened and had changed our landscape forever. So that's my light and happy unicorn thought of the day. But please put your comments in here and let me know how you have handled a situation like this before, or how you would have handled a situation like this. So I guess I struggle because I know there's going to be lots of these kind of conversations I'm going to have with my kids, and I'm going to have to gauge whether or not they're ready and how to speak a language they can understand. Gosh, being a mom is hard. Being a mom is hard. Hard. There is no greeting card for this situation. There is no book you can give your kid to learn about this. This is a deep thoughts. Deep thoughts. So let me know, have you handled situations like this, or even your 9/11 situation, and maybe we can all learn from it. Hope so. Love you very much. Thinking about all of you, and like I said, we prayed for all of the friends and families of those that were lost, and we prayed for those that did lose their lives. As today is a very I don't want to say tragic because I feel like we shouldn't say tragic. Should we say tragic? Should we say special? Should we say, I don't know. Like, how do we, yeah. Like, I feel like that was such a earth-shattering day for us, but that we are moving forward and we've grown and learned from it. I'd like to believe that. Have we? I don't know. What do we say? What's a good word to say? Like, I don't want to say such a tragic event, but I also don't want to fluff it like it was any other day. So I guess we just continue to say we are honoring the lives lost today. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. Have you? Let me know what the answer is. Bye, guys.